Alright, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes. We're just going to have a look there, see what's going on. It's getting nice and smoky on the top there. I would expect underneath to be even more so. Yeah, it's getting a nice, you can see the marks from the grate. It's not the least bit warm, which is what I want. I'm cold smoking it. It's still actually just tepid to the temperature. Probably not even, it's 25 degrees Celsius out right now, and it's probably not even that warm in the meat, which is what I'm going for. I just want a nice cold smoke. I don't want to cook it on there. There we go. Alright, we are now at 3 hours exactly. Let's have a peek and see what it looks like. Oh, it's looking pretty smoky on top. That's actually not too bad. Looking pretty good on the bottom too. I think I might leave it on there just a little bit longer, because the bacon I ate this morning from 18 months ago had been smoked a little bit longer than that, so I'll leave it there for maybe another half an hour or so. I don't think it's particularly warm inside. It was still very cool to the touch, which is what I'm going for on the cold smoke here. Looking very nice though. Alright, it's 3 hours and 15 minutes now, and just out of morbid curiosity, I'm going to put a thermometer in there and see what the temperature is. My good thermometer, quote unquote, is busted. That won't go through the skin, so I'll flip it. Now, I'm not expecting it to be very warm in there. I'm hoping it's not very warm, actually. It's only about a little more than 100 Fahrenheit, or about 40 Celsius, which is not all that warm at all. Certainly not cooked by any stretch of the imagination. And that's what I'm going for, actually. A nice cold smoke, low and slow. That's about it. Alright, it's 4 hours now, and I think we're going to call it a day. Nice and smoky on the top, but we're going to take that skin off anyway. Looking nice in here. It's still, I don't know what the temperature would be inside, but it's probably only 120 or something like that Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. And we'll take that inside and show you what we do next. Alright, so we got our bacon. It's been smoked 4 hours. Looking really nice. Smelling just fantastic. So we have a decision to make at this point. Most people remove the skin, and I've never done that before. Normally I remove the skin when I'm about to cook it. So here's what we got at this point. That's your regular size slice of bacon right there, what you can see on the cross section. And what we've got to decide is that what we want? If it is, then what I would normally do is cut it up into slabs, you know, about this big per slab, and then vacuum seal, freeze the slabs first. I'd freeze them on a cookie sheet, let them get nice and frozen, and then vacuum seal them, because if you vacuum them first before freezing them, you get juices into your vacuum sealer. It's not as good that way. So I got to decide, do I want slabs like that? I may actually, some people may want to cut it down the middle first and then have shorter pieces of bacon and do it that way. And normally what I do is I cut it about like that, and then when I take it out of the freezer, I keep the skin on. When I take it out of the freezer, I cut the skin off, slice the bacon while it's still frozen, and then cook it. And I'm kind of thinking that's what I'm going to do at this point. A lot of people will take the skin right off at this point and then discard it. But I'm thinking I'm just going to leave that skin on there, and I don't know, I'll probably get 4 slabs out of that, I would guess. So let me see what I got here for another knife. I need a better knife than the one I got there. And we're just going to cut 4 slabs like that. Alright, so now this, remember, has not been cooked. I didn't do the, some people cook it on their smoker, and I don't do that. So this is not something that you would want to eat raw by any stretch of the imagination. That knife is really not very sharp. It's looking pretty good though, actually. It's a very nice looking bacon. Remember that it's not cooked, so it's not as looks a little bit different than a lot of bacon will, but that's some really nice looking bacon right there, actually. And I'm just going to cut it into a couple more slabs. I'll throw it onto a cookie sheet and freeze it, and then once it's been frozen, I'm going to vacuum seal it and throw it back in the freezer again. Oh man, that is nice looking bacon. There you go. Look at that. Just looks fantastic. Love the look of that. Yeah, if you leave the fat on, if you leave the skin on, then what I can do is, what I did this morning is, I grilled that in the pan and got all the fat off of it, and I saved the fat. The smoky bacon fat is really good. Like for example, bacon fat in general, pork fat, is really good for making pie crust. You want to make some insane pie crust, you make it with some of the, replace some of the lard or fat or butter in your pie crust with smoky bacon fat. It is insane. You try that with like apple pie or something like that, a little bit of smoky bacon fat in the crust. Is crazy. So I'm just going to make another cut here. I get 4 good sized slabs of bacon out of that bad boy. And one of these slabs, this is bigger than the slab I had this morning, and the slab I had this morning was good for 2 adults if it was a significant portion of their meal, or just on the side for a family of 4 if you just want to have a slice or 2 of bacon on the side. That is just fantastic looking bacon. Look at that. Look at that baby. Oh yeah. And this side of course is a lot smokier. What some people do too, if you wanted to, you could have cut this up ahead of time before I put it on the smoker, and then put it on the smoker in slabs, and then you'd have more surface area of smoke on these surfaces here, of course. You can do that too if you want. I've done it that way as well. Basically, experiment, and the world is your oyster. One thing I forgot to mention, when you are taking the fat off, or sorry, the skin, when you are taking the skin off, you want to leave as much fat on the bacon as possible. So I'm just going to start this one here. Actually, I'll do one whole piece for you just to show you if you want it to do that. If you want it to take it off, then what you would do is you leave as much fat on the bacon as you can. So we're just kind of going in there real shallow. This is a terrible knife. I really should have a sharper knife. So we're just going like that, and we're leaving as much fat on the bacon as we can when we're doing it. I'm actually not going to do that. I'm just showing you here. If you want to take the skin off right now, that's how you could do it. You'd probably want a sharper knife than this. This is actually fairly dull, but even with a fairly dull knife, it's coming off pretty easily. It's not that difficult at all. So I'm going to take these, put them on a cookie sheet, throw them on the top of the deep freeze, let them freeze up, and then I'm going to vacuum seal them, and we're done. Alright, so it's right back in this deep pan that I have. It's not a cookie sheet after all. This is the same pan that I had it in when I was curing it in the fridge. The 4 pieces fit in just perfectly, and into the freezer it goes. It's got the skin side down, so it will pop out of there pretty easily once it's frozen.